there's Earth, and you see it the way nature intended. You see it the way God intended you to see it. People are killing one another because of what side of a line in the sand they're born on, or because of some shade of skin color, because of some god they worship that's different from some other god. It makes you wonder whether our species has the wisdom to survive itself.
Do you think it does? So I'm here in New York City to cook dinner for somebody who makes me feel infinitesimally small. Not just because he's really tall, but because he deals with things like the universe and the cosmos and reminds me that we're just these insignificant things floating on a piece of rock throughout the Milky Way, hurtling through space. Our lives mean nothing, and that I'm probably taking my inbox too seriously.
Why did I have to see someone's genitals on fire?
So wait a second, are you telling me you were a stripper?
I didn't finish the story.
Neil deGrasse Tyson has spent his life translating the language of the cosmos.
So is there something in here?
You're very curious.
Imagine if everyone were curious. Does that make me a good candidate for this conversation?
No. But tonight, we go deeper than black holes and distant galaxies.
I want to feel some of that courage. I want to hear what that courage sounds like.
To what it means to be alive, knowing you won't be forever.
I don't fear death. I fear a life where I could have accomplished more than I did.
A conversation about curiosity, courage, and manufacturing meaning before our time runs out.
We have the power to manufacture meaning. But
Are you going to hit me? This is New York City, and this is Neil deGrasse Tyson.
School's out for the summer.
Food defines us, but every feast must come to an end. When facing mortality, life's big questions are served.
This is Last Meal, where I prepare the dish my guest would want if it were their last.
About 15 years ago, I reached a point where I was having ideas that could not be expressed by available language, by either available syntax and...
Only you could say that.
No, no. It was
having thoughts there are no words for this.
It was a little scary, actually, because was I ascending out of the dictionary? And plus there are these rules that are there that take care of most cases, but I wanted to communicate with a reader in ways that transcended the rules. I don't want to say break the rules because that's too ignorant, right? I broke the rule because I don't want to. No, it's the rules available did not accommodate my needs. And in that realm, I found myself becoming a much better writer. Because then the words weren't things I was ascending to. That I was just plucking them at. They were tools for me to communicate, and then I would layer onto it thoughts, ideas, ways, and means that I felt necessary in the moment. If I may share with you my favorite sentence ever that I've composed, okay? I want at least one of these per book. Okay,
yeah.
Okay, here it is. The spinning planets orbit the sun along their appointed paths, like pirouetting dancers in a cosmic ballet, choreographed by the forces of gravity.
That's a hell of a fucking sentence.
Well, so what I like about it...
It's so on brand as well. It's like you have to be wearing that fucking T-shirt to say that. That's...
No, so what I'd like about it personally...
Is there pirouettes in there?
Yes.
Is there a pirouette?
There's a pirouette.
All right.
Spinning planets, pirouetting dancers.
Okay, good.
In a cosmic ballet.
Yeah.
Choreographed by the forces of gravity.
I'm trying to...
So what I like about it is that it's scientifically accurate. It uses metaphor and lands you in a scientifically accurate place. And it's rather than just simply going metaphor on you, and you have to nip and tuck and do surgery to find where the science is. So once the language just became my, I do what I wanted with it, it was quite empowering, I found.
Yeah, the words in that situation, I feel like you're using them more as raw materials and then constructing something meta
bigger.
above it. Yeah,
Perfectly stated. And I have a word in the Oxford English Dictionary.
Excuse me? What are you talking about? Like you invented it?
Yeah, there's a word
I'll get
that
the fuck out of here. You did not.
Yes, there's a
What are you
word
talking
I
about?
needed, and there was no word for it. And so I used it, and then it caught on.
Fascinating.
And then other people started using it.
What is it?
And it was lifted into the Oxford English Dictionary.
What is
which,
it?
as you may know, the Oxford English Dictionary is this large because it tracks the origin of the word and every pivoted use of the word throughout the history of the word in print. And so it was simple. When I was a kid, was I 14? I think I was 14, 15. I went on an expedition to the British Isles where we studied stone monuments similar to Stonehenge, but they were obscure and uncharted and in farmers' fields, and they just wanted to get rid of them. Yet they have historical value. So we have an expedition head and a scientific archaeologist who we went to these places and we mapped and charted these stones just to make sure in case there was an astronomical alignment. You don't want to,
You don't want to miss that.
You don't want to miss that, right? So, and we, of course, visited Stonehenge. And I'm 14, 15 years old when this happens. And I thought to myself, as you may remember, Stonehenge on the summer solstice, the sun rises in perfect alignment with several of the stones, and there's a heel stone. And so the ancient folks cared about the sky. This wasn't just some ritual temple for whatever religious circumstances they find themselves in. There was real astronomical activity related to it. So I was thinking to myself, as a native New Yorker, I wonder if there's a place I can stand in New York City, thinking Central Park, perhaps, where there's a building top that aligns with the sun or the moon or the stars at a particular time of day. And then I'd make a list of these alignments. And then I'd be bringing a little bit of Stonehenge to New York. And the exercise failed. Nothing worked. And I said, all right, then I just got to go brass tacks here. And I said, let me find the days of the year where the sun rises. Let me find the days of the year where the sun sets on the grid of Manhattan. It's a perfect grid north of Houston Street. All streets are parallel. All avenues are, there's a couple of exceptions, but by and large, that's what you've got. And these are streets that cut completely across Manhattan. And they're tall buildings that gird the streets. And I said, I did the calculation. I said, on this day, if you stand very far east in Manhattan and look west, the buildings will frame a vanishing point, and the sun will set over New Jersey, okay, on the other side of the Hudson River, across 12 avenues of Manhattan, and the geometry will be perfect. And sure enough, it's there. It's sunset on the Manhattan grid. It happens on 2 days of the year because the sunset point changes throughout the year. Everyone who says that the sun rises in the east and sets in the west, that's true on 2 days of the year. All other days, it's not true. But I knew this because that's what I do. And then I wanted a word for this.
Isn't there already a word, solstice? Isn't it a solstice?
Oh, no, because the solstice would be some other spot. The solstice doesn't care about Manhattan's grid.
Okay. So
right.
this is pertinent specifically.
Yeah, the difference is, but that's a perceptive point. Stonehenge was built to match what the sun was doing.
Yeah.
I'm finding the sun, the day where the sun is matching what the grid is doing. Yeah. Okay. So that's a little audacious, I get it.
But for somebody who's that obsessed with space and New York, it's totally fitting.
Thank you. Thank you. Somebody appreciates me. Yeah. Thank you. So I thought to myself, why don't I call it Manhattan Henge? And you get a little bit of the alliteration there, Manhattan Henge, and it stuck. And so now it's just in the dictionary.
And that's in the dictionary now.
And when I was first photographing it, no one was there to do so. I mean, think about it. This goes on every single year and nobody notices. If they do, they don't make a big deal of it. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, why does no one notice? Well, a few things have to be true. You have to be crossing the street at sunset, A. B, it has to be clear over New Jersey. And New Jersey is where all our bad weather comes. I should say that differently. The prevailing circulation of clouds and all manner of weather goes west to east.
Yes.
Jersey is west of Manhattan. So if there's a late summer thunderstorm, you're going to see it in Jersey before you're going to see it in New York. So it has to be clear. And you have to be crossing a street, which is typically dangerous in New York, and not pay attention to the traffic. All that has to be happening. And you'd be surprised. You could be crossing the street on that day, but it's cloudy. Okay?
Yeah.
You could be crossing the street on that day, and there's a car coming, and so you don't want to die. All right? So all the conditions have to be right. And it took me a few of these apparitions to finally find one that I could photograph. Then I published the photograph. Now, this is now 15, 20 years later, tens of thousands of people flood the streets to observe this.
That's fantastic.
So if no one remembers me for anything else in my life, I've given New York Manhattanhenge.
That's such an amazing story and legacy to leave behind.
Yeah, and it's a gift to us all. I mean, it's not. I mean, I didn't create it. I just told you it was something to notice.
It's like who created the speed of light? Like it's not, like you gotta. I'm not saying
good
that
point.
that
Somebody
was
has
the
to,
speed of light.
Somebody has to figure out that that's a thing.
Yeah, identifying something is
Right.
often as good as have inventing it yourself.
But that's a word that I invented for that occasion. There was not otherwise a word for it. And in my latest a book I wrote a couple of years ago, there's 7 words that don't exist that I needed for the occasion. I'll just tell you one of them, if I may.
Yeah, of course.
And they're not words to show off. Just in the moment, I needed that word.
Yeah.
All right? So I talk about going into a time machine. Okay? And a time machine, so they never show time machines correctly in the movies. They go in and they dial a time and then they come out. Let's say you want to go back 6 months ago. So you dial it up. You go back 6 months and you step out. You'll be stepping out into empty space because Earth is not where it was at the point you dialed in the time change.
Yeah. Are we talking about like a wormhole style?
No.
time machine?
Who knows how we're going to make time machines in the future? All I'm saying is you are on a moving platform called Earth. If you simply go back 6 months, Earth is now on the other side of the sun and you're not with Earth because all you did was go back in time. And if you really want a proper time machine, it has to go to a time destination and a space destination. So that would be 6 months earlier over here in the same coordinates on Earth so that you walk out into your same living room or wherever your time machine is located.
Joke's on you then, eh?
So it's very simple. It was just, it's not a profound invention, but I needed this word. So when you take your trip, that gives you access to everywhere and every when. That's all. That's not a word.
Everyone, yeah.
But you know exactly what it means.
Of course, yeah, immediately.
Yeah, because it's here and there and when, everywhere, every when. That's all. So that's what I mean.
Does it only make sense to me because of the context in which you put it, or
Sure.
Okay,
Sure. And a couple other words, and I'm saying, I'm not trying to show off here. I'm just saying
I
had a need beyond a normal sentence, and I didn't want to recast the sentence in any way because that would clumsify it.
Yeah.
Right? So here's one. I joked about goldfish in a family, right? And the kids love the goldfish, and then the kids go away to camp over the summer. And what happens to the goldfish?
Dies
because the parents don't care about the goldfish.
Yeah, of course.
They try to care about it.
Yeah, the parents probably killed the goldfish.
Well, not on purpose.
No, they took a hit out on the thing.
So a couple of ways the goldfish can die. You can overfeed it, okay? Or you could not feed it at all. But I thought, I want a pair of words there, okay? So if Goldie if that's the name of the goldfish, was no, you can never feed it or overfeed
Or
it.
overfeed
You can
it, yeah.
overfeed it.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So I said, so if Goldie was overfed or simply never fed, one word. Overfed is one word.
What about misfed?
Okay, but what else? You're not going to throw a slab of meat in there.
No,
they're
but I
not,
mean,
they're
like-
not piranha. What, I mean,
You've misfed Goldie. Really? Did I feed him too much
Okay,
or too
but
little? Oh, we need to specify.
even if you use the word misfed, that's one word.
Yeah.
Okay, you can underfeed.
Yeah.
Okay, overfeed or never feed. And so I just made one word out of never feed, because why should never feed be two words when those other words were one word? I want to everyone.
Everyone, sorry. I mean, words like everwhen, I feel like the only people who could make those into the English dictionary are you and Fleetwood Mac. Like maybe. It's
No.
between you and Stevie Nicks.
Here's the
again.
Here's the challenge. It has to be very clear that the rules that were available were inadequate for the need of the moment. You can't use a word in a certain way because you didn't know how you're supposed to use the word. You can't invent words out of ignorance. If there's a word for something, you just come up with the word.
Yeah.
It could be entertaining, but if you have a word for you that might be better or more precise, then you're just wasting everybody's time. So I like words. I think about them often.
Do you think you have OCD?
No.
You've mentioned rules to me 3 different times, twice today and once on the phone.
I'm mentioning rules that I don't like being contained by.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Really?
Right.
So would you say
grammatical rule? Here's the point. Yes, I will follow all grammatical rules unless I think they shouldn't be a rule. Okay.
We're going to get into the pineapple on pizza thing in 2 seconds.
Okay.
So,
No, think about it.
Yeah.
Rules are for most cases, but every now and then I need to break a rule. And then I have an argument with the copy editor because they're following the rules of the Chicago Manual of Style or whatever. And the Manual of Style, I'll give an example. For the longest while, Earth was not capitalized.
I had no idea
in the
about
manuals of style.
Is that right?
And I said, I am not standing for that because the other planets are capitalized. And I know they're named after Roman gods, but if we are one of a family of objects, then I don't care that the word Earth wasn't a god, make it part of the family. And every one of my manuscripts, I submitted Earth capitalized. Now, but
are you going to hit me?
Hold me back.
I wasn't the one that did it.
Don't make me jump across the table.
I could see you just being like, fucking Pluto's got to pee.
We don't even talk about Pluto.
Yeah.
So, no, but if you're going to do that, it has to come with certain rules that are associated with it. So, for example, where do you live? You say, I live on the Earth. But if we were on Jupiter, you wouldn't say, I live on the Jupiter. You don't say, I live on the Mars, the Venus. You just say, I live on Venus. If I'm going to capitalize Earth and make it one of the family, I have to get rid of the. I live on Earth.
The pesky the.
This is not French where the the's everywhere. So you want to play in the sandbox with the other planets. You have to not use the word the.
Right.
And I've been doing that, and initially it's a little awkward, but you get used to it. So let's go back to Earth.
Yes.
We live on Earth. We don't live on the Earth. All right. And this is different from picking up soil and saying Mother Earth. That's different. Or not Mother, whatever, the good Earth, like Willa Cather's story. You wouldn't capitalize that because that's a different application of the word. So that's an example where I broke a rule, and now it's actually quite common, and I'm happy to see that it's.
I only use
like you didn't even notice it. You didn't even know.
I say the when it's like if I say something like the on the face of the planet, like this is the longest fucking phone call I've ever had on the face of the planet. If I'm complaining to somebody, I'll use the.
But if you're not, then how do you say it?
Which vibe?
I know.
I just hang up. I don't even say anything. Speaking of space and planets, if you were to design a dinner party
Mm-hmm.
for aliens,
Mm-hmm.
and
I love it.
the
Keep going, give me
objective,
more.
okay, the objective is to teach the aliens about humanity, what 3 dishes would be essential?
So I'm way ahead of you there. Not ahead of
Until
you.
we've already done it.
No, no, I don't mean ahead of you. I'm in a different place from that question. Okay,
Time machine?
that question presumes that the aliens eat. They could be sentient plants,
Of course.
and all they have to do is bask under the lamps, and that is their meal. In fact, they don't even have kitchens or restaurants. They would not have a podcast with this title. So,
Not the last photon?
I'm not presuming that I know in advance. I mean, we can construct it that way.
Let's construct it that way.
Okay,
So we're not
but I just
going
want
in
you
circles.
to know.
Yeah, I know.
You made
I
some
know.
assumptions about your
Yeah,
aliens.
yeah. Astrobiologically, I was not as specific, but
Exactly.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Okay. So then I'll repeat the question.
Okay. If 3 aliens were coming over to your place for dinner, and these aliens were astrobiologically similar to you,
Yes.
in so much as that they ate
They eat.
they
at
eat
all.
food,
Mhm.
and you wanted to teach them about humanity,
Mhm.
and you decided to give them 3 dishes on a degustation, what would you choose?
Yeah, I would say, depend on how much energy I had to prepare a dish. But they're aliens, so of course you pull out all the stops, I guess. So what I would do is I would serve a dead animal. I would serve dead plants. They might still be alive on the plate, but by the time you eat them, they're dead. And I'd serve mushrooms. And I would say, these are the 3 main branches of the tree of life: the animal kingdom, the plant kingdom, and the fungal kingdom. There's also a microbial, bacterial thing, but that's
Amuse-bouche. Yeah.
just swimming around in the petri dish.
Yeah.
So this would be a lesson in the things that were once alive that are killed for the consumption and the nutrition of animals on Earth. All animals have to kill something that was once alive in order to sustain themselves. Actually, there are 2 exceptions to that, which are oddly explicitly excluded from a vegan diet.
Mm.
Okay? The vegan diet is plant-based, of course, but they add to it. There's a staple onto that rule that you can't have milk or honey.
Mm.
Milk and honey's in the Bible. Okay?
Yeah.
The land of milk and honey. You know what's interesting about milk and honey? Nothing died in the production of milk and honey.
Mm.
So if you wanted to truly live in such a way where you're not killing anything from the animal kingdom, the plant kingdom, or the fungal kingdom, you could live off of, by and large, live off of milk and honey. It's got the proteins, carbohydrates. It's got, you might have to supplement it with a vitamin, here and there, but you can get pretty far on milk and honey. So I'm intrigued that vegans explicitly exclude it because they're perfectly happy killing plants for their nourishment.
Yeah.
And who doesn't like milk and honey and milk products? So there'll be cheese and milkshakes and stuff.
Yeah.
You can do a lot with milk and honey.
I seem to. I remember
you sweeten your milkshake with the honey.
There
All
you go.
good.
Hey, listen, I'm
because sugar crystals that comes from plants. You're killing beets or you're killing sugarcane. So you have to carve out from the tree of life those things that were once alive that you choose not to eat. There are people who don't want to eat after that octopus documentary came out.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever. I never saw it.
Octopus teacher.
Yeah, I never saw it.
It was quite good.
Yeah. And the people who
I still eat octopus. It was fucking like great documentary. Like I'll have the squid
I
ink
know
pasta.
tons of people who stopped eating octopus
Okay.
because of it. I think because they respect the intelligence of it and the like. Well, pigs are also intelligent.
Yeah, pigs are really
but
intelligent.
they're eating bacon while they're not eating the octopus. And
also, I think it's a weird thing not to eat something just because it's like you're choosing to eat the stupid thing.
I know.
I'm like, what? That's so you insult him and then you eat him?
Right,
Is that what?
You
Come here,
dumbass.
idiot.
Come
Get
over
on
here,
my
let me eat you. So you're right. So people just carving out sections of the tree of life, deciding what they will eat or what they won't eat.
Yeah.
And they'll come up with a rule surrounding it. How complex is the nervous system? Does it feel pain?
Yeah.
Here's one I had on my podcast, Star Talk. I had the founder of PETA on there. And before we sat down, well, while we started filming, I said, I just want to alert you before we have this conversation that I gleefully drop lobsters into boiling water. Okay. I want to know uncertainties about that conversation. She said, well, she's working with there's a neuro crustacean expert where they're trying to find something that will anesthetize the lobster. That you buy with the lobster, it's you buy it next to the tank of lobsters at the store. A lobster anesthetizer. Okay, so you get the lobster, you bring that home, and I don't know what you do, you dunk his head in it, whatever. It's anesthetized, and then you cook it, and it feels no pain. So she's thinking this. So she's not against killing animals. She was against pain and suffering.
I understand that.
And that's a noble.
These are just better people than I am.
No,
but no, they genuinely are. But here's what I want to know: how do you become? What was he, a crustacean?
I know. I made up that title.
Oh, you made it up.
It was just people who study. I mean, I work at the American Museum of Natural History here in New York City. Thanks for coming to New York to do this, by the way. And there are people that have expertise. You didn't even know that was something to be an expert in. Yeah. You know,
it makes me think, like, did they know? But like, they just got into it and they're like, oh, there's a niche. Like,
well, yeah. I mean, if they collected butterflies or rocks or, these are how these interests are spawned, especially, early childhood. So we have people who are experts on crabs and other crustaceans. Yeah. And they would surely know about the complexity or lack thereof of the nervous system within them. And that's who you would reach out to if you wanted to make something. I would totally buy that. If I can bring a little bit of redemption to my comment that I gleefully boil lobsters.
Okay, yes.
Here's what I do before I put the lobster in the pot. I remove the crimping, be it the rubber band or the thing, whatever it is that's preventing them from opening their claws, because they're all tied up. Okay, yeah. I remove them.
Right.
So that
you take on a risk.
I'm pretty sure I'm going to win this battle.
Yeah,
but I want to give the lobster one last chance to harm me.
Do you know what that is? Do you ever hear those stories about World War I when they had to kill a fellow, somebody on their team because they didn't go over the top into no man's land? And the general would be like, put a gun in his hand. They put it, and they'd be like, run! And then they'd try and kill him, right? They're like, give him a fighting. Give him a fighting chance. And so so they wouldn't feel as bad about killing one of their own.
Oh,
that's what you're doing with the lobster.
Well, he's not one of my own, but I'm a human. It's got
something tells me you were at one at some point in the evening.
Well, yeah. So I just wanted to, out of respect for the lobster, however feeble this gesture is in a larger scale, it's just one little thing that I do, and it's trying, and then I drop them in.
A thing that you, on the topic of food, a thing that you mentioned to me the other day.
Oh, by the way, is it okay that I just said dead animal, dead plant, and mushroom? They're not meat. They're not dishes, but it would be highly instructive to the alien learning about the biodiversity.
No, it was a great fucking answer. I loved it. Yeah.
Okay.
One thing that you were saying with respects to food was you said somebody that gave you the quote or gave you the advice to order something off the menu that you can't pronounce.
Yes. Yes.
And that sort of plays. I found that really interesting because it's the mark of somebody who is really open to trying new things. Would you say that you're that kind of person?
Yes. However, I do have an exception to that bit of philosophy. If I'm really hungry, I don't want to risk risking on a nasty dish.
Yeah.
Here's something I can't pronounce, order it. And if there's something squirming on the plate.
Yeah.
So if I'm really hungry, I'm going to go with a comfort food.
Okay.
Yeah. But if I'm not hungry, it's just time for dinner. Yeah. Yeah. I'll order something I can't pronounce.
What about this? Do you have like a, this is a two-prong question. The first prong would be, do you have like a regular fast food place that you like a guilty pleasure? And the second part of the question is, when you order that, do you always order the same thing? Or if they come out with something new, do you try the new thing? Because when you have the craving for the comfort food, you imagine in your head what will satiate you.
Yes.
So how adventurous can you be when you're kind of under the thumb of your subconscious?
Yeah. So here's how that'll work with me. I'm a fast food American like the next guy. Okay. And Big Macs were my mainstay, like for decades. In fact, I was a geeky kid. The McDonald's down the street back in the day would actually count how many burgers were sold in the entire chain.
Yeah.
And the sign would say, 5 billion serves. And I would just watch the number go up, 6 billion, 10 billion. So just trying to construct how many burgers this is. This is terrifying information to cows. I just want you to know. As they go up by billions, what's going on with the cows? So then they had a kind of a Y2K problem. Because they reached 99 billion and there wasn't room, because these are just numbers that they put up.
Yeah, like one of those old flip things.
Exactly. They only had they only had slots for 2 digits. And when they hit 99 billion, it flatlined there for years.
Yeah.
Because I made them enough money to redo every sign, but then they finally figured out how to do it. Now it just says billions and billions served. That's why they stopped counting. And so they passed 100 billion in this. By the way, 100 billion hamburgers goes around the earth multiple times and to the moon and back. So
couldn't they have just put, like taken it down to like 4,000 and then underneath written millions sold? Call me a problem solver, but I feel like you're just starting the counter over again.
Yeah, then you have to teach people that 4,000 million is 4 billion.
Yeah, that's where you come in. Okay, wait. So you're still going.
So if I know early in the day that I'm eating sort of at a fast food burger joint, then the craving builds, and I know exactly what I'm going to order when I go in. If it's more spontaneous than that, it's what are we going to eat? I don't know. Well, let's eat at Wendy's or Shake Shack. If you go in and it's more spontaneous, then I didn't spend hours and hours anticipating the one hamburger variety of hamburger that I always eat, and then I will I'll spread out.
I like that answer.
Yeah.
You claim, as do I actually, that the universe doesn't owe us an explanation to make sense to us.
That's good. The universe is under no obligation.
And the universe is under no obligation.
Yeah.
Do you think that's the same with life? Do you think it has no obligation to give us meaning?
The very construct of that question presupposes that meaning is something exterior to yourself that will arrive in your life, or that you'll stumble upon it and pick it up, or that you, by the way, this is a major tenet of religions where, certainly in the monotheistic religions, you are taught, if this is implicitly or explicitly taught, it's the consequence of whatever is happening in the education, in the religious education, that your life has meaning only in the context of an almighty creator. And So therefore, you are sort of attached to it in search of meaning for your life. And many people do derive meaning that way. So I'm not here to take that away from them. But what I want to say is we have the power to manufacture meaning in our lives. So no, being alive doesn't owe us anything. But being alive and having a brain and having initiative, having agency, you can create meaning at will, provided you understand yourself well enough to do so. So for me, how do I get meaning in life? I'll tell you. I want to make sure every day I'm alive, by some act of statement or action, I've lessened the suffering of others in some way. I don't mean redirecting my life to make that happen. There's so many things any of us can do that's a trivial adjustment to your routine that can make a very big difference in someone else's life. I want to make sure every day of my life, some of that love is spread to those who need it. Also, I want to make sure every day I'm alive, I learn something new that I didn't know the day before. And it could be little, just, and if a day goes by where neither of those happen, I feel it's wasted. And I'm one day closer to death when I could have actually done more than I did. So that's how I derive meaning. And I find great fulfillment in that. And this goes deep. All right. Think about what school is. School. Surely you have memories similar to this, unless this only happens in the United States. You're looking at the clock. You can't wait till the bell rings at the end of school and you run out of class. You're looking at, it's Friday and you can't wait till the weekend begins. It's May, when the last day of school. You can't wait until summer vacation. Or it's the last day of school forever. Okay. There's a rock anthem that celebrates this by Alice Cooper.
School's out.
School's out for the summer.
Yeah.
Comma, school's out forever. Why is that an anthem? Why do we celebrate that? And it's easy as an educator to say, well, you just have to be a better student. No. You need to make a better school. Why is it that people can't wait to leave school when their only job in school is to learn? That's your only job. How is it that learning can be so burdensome that you run down the steps, toss your books in the air and say, I don't have to go to school anymore? Something's wrong. And I think what's missing in school is we think school should be about learning. Yes, of course. But it should also be about stimulating curiosity to discover things tomorrow that you didn't know today. So that when school's out, you say, I don't want to leave school. We were discovering things in there. And every time you learn something new out of an act of discovery, it props you up a little. It's like, I feel good about that extra knowledge. And it wasn't handed to you. You discovered it. And so that's my long backstory to this simple comment that if coming out of school, you remain curious as an adult, as curious as you were as a child when no one told you to be curious. You were just curious, built into our DNA as human beings. If you are that curious coming out of school and you learn something every day, you will learn more after you graduate from school than you ever learned while you were in school.
That holds true.
And what happens now is people get out of school and think, I'm done. And then they ossify in place. Then as things change around them, they want to resist it. They can't wrap their head around it because they want it just the way it was when they graduated. So I think there's room for improvement here. Imagine if everyone were curious. Oh my gosh. There'd be no room for stale, ossified, old thoughts that have been long surpassed by greater ideas, greater understandings of the world. So I feel deeply about that simply as an educator.
I like what you said about learning something new every day, and then you would have some sort of regret if you didn't do that. One of my favorite quotes of yours was something along the lines of, "I don't fear death, but I fear a life that I would have accomplished more or could have accomplished
Yes,
more."
I wrote that in one of my books.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
In a chapter on life and death.
Right.
Yeah.
What do you?
Does that make me a good candidate for this conversation?
No, it's got nothing to do with that. Really,
I
it
thought
was
it's last meal.
It was the shirt that did it. I was like, we just picked you off the street. We're like, he looks like he'll be a lot of fun. What I want to know is what do you want to achieve from now on? I mean, you've achieved so much already, but you want to achieve more. Like what?
Oh yeah.
What do you want to achieve?
No, there's no day where you just hang up your curiosity.
Yes, but that's not what I mean. I'm not saying you hang up your curiosity, but like obviously it gets more difficult as it goes on, especially when you do achieve great things.
Oh, you mean how do I? What do I do for an encore kind of thing?
Yeah, well, it's not even an encore. It's just that you keep trying to level up, and everybody goes through this. It doesn't matter how much they've achieved. I think, you want to level up from wherever you are and keep doing better, or at least I hope that people do.
I approach life differently from that. I don't see my life as a record of achievements, because then you start comparing yourself to yourself.
I do that all the time. Better than comparing yourself to other people.
That's true. That's true. And instead, I think to myself, given what I know, given my expertise or my talents or absence of talents, what is still in front of me to do, to accomplish, and I'm not comparing it to the past. I'll give an easy example, but I think good examples are more subtle than this. I used to dance. I was a performing member of 3 different dance companies.
What type of dancing?
So 3
exotic or?
Almost. I was invited by one of my fellow dancers because I was in graduate school and there's not much money. And I was invited because one of them danced at an exotic male club.
Actually, really?
Yes. And he invited me down, because he wanted to make some money. You can make money here. So I go there.
So wait a second. Are you telling me you were a stripper?
I didn't finish the story. Can I finish the story?
Neil?
I just say he invited me. Okay, let me finish the story because I'm trying to get extra money. And so we're there and we're in very good shape. I mean, I could do a full split and I was in, it was,
really?
Oh yeah.
That's pretty impressive.
Well, at the time.
Yeah.
Now, not so much.
Yeah.
But just the idea that you're in full control of your body at all times and where your center of mass is. And there's nothing like being in dancing shape. Let me just declare that. So I go down there and I'm watching, and there's he and some other dancers, and there are women all in the, in the audience. He comes out with an asbestos-lined jockstrap that was lit on fire, and they danced to Jerry Lee Lewis's Great Balls of Fire. And I said, so I'm embarrassed by this.
I'm embarrassed listening to it.
I'm embarrassed that it took that imagery for me to say, I think I'll tutor math. Why didn't I come up with that earlier? I can tutor math and physics. I'm in graduate school. I have degrees in physics.
Lucky they didn't have OnlyFans back in the day. We never would have heard of you.
Why did I have to see someone's genitals on fire to have that thought? I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed by that. So I said, nope, thank you for this. But I went home and joined a tutoring agency and I started tutoring.
Amazing.
But the reason why I started this story, you asked me that, one is International Latin Ballroom. Another one is the rumba, the paso doble, and
we had a very famous movie in Australia called Strictly Ballroom.
Of course,
of course. I'm sure you will see.
Yes. I'd forgotten it was Australian,
and the paso doble was in that.
Yes,
as well.
Yes, and I was dancing while that movie came out.
Really?
Yes, that was the '80s. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So International Latin Ballroom. Then there was sort of Afro-Caribbean, and a third one was more sort of a fusion of jazz and ballet. So you get jazz hands, but also it's balletic movements. So, but anyway, performing. So we performed. You know, it's not the Bolshoi, but these are school troops. But nonetheless, it was formed great camaraderie and the like. My only point of saying any of that is there are people who come up to me and say, Neil, you should be on Dances with the Stars. When they hear that I had done some dancing. And I say, no, because that was a chapter of my life. I'm not going to try to relive that. When I was dancing, no one was publishing my books. So I'm writing books now. All right. That's what I'm doing now. And so.
But you kind of dance with the stars now anyway, don't you? In your own way.
Figuratively.
Yeah.
So in my life, I don't try to redo anything I've done before, however great it was in my life for my arc of achievements, because at any given moment, you have a different portfolio of what you're good at, provided you keep learning every day. And so I want the things I do in the future to be things I could have never done in my past.
That's a cool idea.
Why doesn't everybody have that idea?
I don't know, because they're not as smart as you.
So
you figured this out.
In my book where I invented the word everywhen. That word might have been used elsewhere, but I needed it in that sentence.
Yeah, in a Fleetwood Mac. Ooh, I want to be with you everywhere. No? I told you it's between you and Stevie Nicks.
Okay, that's all good. I didn't know that was the actual line in there.
No, it isn't. I'm joking.
Oh, it isn't? Okay, okay.
You're with the everywhere.
Oh, yeah. So the book where that's discussed, and I also reflect on life and death and other issues of culture and society. That book, which came out 3 years ago, was called Cosmic Perspectives on Civilization. I could not have written that 10 years earlier. I wasn't wise enough. That book is the sum of my life's wisdom gathered in one place. And it's what the world looks like if you're scientifically literate and you have a cosmic perspective on it. And that's where I had the revelations, simple as they are, but collected in one place. It's quite a tome. It's milk and honey. If you don't want to kill anything for the rest of your life, eat some milk and honey. And you'll piss off vegans, but you can say, I'm not killing anything, and you are slaughtering plants in your diet.
Won't somebody think of the plants?
And you'll say, well, they don't have feelings. Well, some research suggests that they might. I mean, I don't have it in Australia, in the Northwest here and in Canada, in maple trees, they tap the tree in the spring, like right now, to make maple syrup.
Amazing. Okay?
Somehow we're thinking we're just taking the sap out. No, the tree is bleeding.
Yeah.
Is no one thinking about it that way?
Yeah. And then you're boiling its blood constantly
and you're
to reduce it down to this
30-to-1 concentration.
And then you're just putting it on your pancakes and going straight to lunch.
And the tree's got to,
Yeah.
No, it didn't kill the tree, so that's a good fact.
Yeah.
But so there's just perspectives that are all collected there. I could not have written that 5 or even 10 or even 5 years earlier.
Yeah.
So now as I go forward, I'm looking at other projects that would not only take the sum of what I have reflected upon, learned, not only from my own searches, but from others.
Yeah.
My friend Bill Nye is famous for saying many things. One of them is, everyone in the world knows something that you don't know.
I love that concept.
I love it. And so
try and figure out what it is.
At a party, to the extent that I can get away with not talking about the universe, because that's hard, because, well, tell me about black holes and space and Elon Musk and is there God? Okay, if I can get through all of that, I want to know what their expertise is or what they know most about. And I will spend the whole evening talking about other people's expertise so that I can learn. It's very selfish of me, actually, because I want to learn what you know.
Yeah, totally.
And then you add all this together and just see what you can do with it. Consider that you don't know in advance how you're going to put pieces of information together into a new idea. You just don't know.
But even a new perspective, whether you learn information from it or not, broadens your understanding of the world as we know it.
Not only the world physically, but the world geopolitically, the world culturally, emotionally. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to present your last meal to you.
So is there something in here?
There is something in there. You're very curious.
But it was clearly not something I was supposed to peek at.
Okay. Neil, your last meal is spinach lasagna.
That's beautiful. Oh my gosh.
From the Moosewood Cookbook.
Yes.
Yeah.
The Moosewood Cookbook.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Do you want to try it?
Yes. I how can I not? You had to have made at least 4 others because each of these are cut.
Yeah, we've got some for you to take home.
Corners.
Okay, here's what I actually want.
Oh, it smells great. Oh my gosh.
Good. I want you to take a piece home for your wife, give it to her, and
because she's the one who made this.
She's the one that you said has perfected it.
Yes, she's made some perfections to it.
So I want to know what she thinks of our version.
Okay.
Yeah. So try.
All right.
Yeah.
No, I don't have a napkin here. You just it's a sleeve.
Sorry.
In Australia, you just
yeah. You didn't tip well enough.
Oh.
So
All right, let's see what you got here. There we go.
That's the way to do it. Is that accurate?
It's 80% there.
80%. That's not too bad.
80%.
That's not too bad.
Not too bad.
Is there something noticeable on the palate that would improve it?
I think she has added a touch of nutmeg.
Okay.
Which occasionally you do with cheeses.
Yes.
And hers is a little saucier.
Would you serve it on a base of the sauce, maybe?
Yeah, that would help. That would help. But some of the sauce is not just the tomato sauce, but there's also ricotta in here.
Yeah.
And ricotta can flow if there's enough of it there. And so, and it's the mixture, the melange of the ricotta with the mozzarella. And we also put in some shaved Parmesan.
Yes,
cheese.
we've done that. We did pecorino.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, which is a bit sharper.
It's a little sharper.
Yeah.
It's a little sharper. Oh, I only learned like 2 years ago that pecorino is exactly the same as Parmesan, except it's from sheep instead of cow.
Yes.
I didn't know that.
And also, if you
because they
get
were
the right
oddly
one,
similar but different,
they are.
right?
Yeah.
Right.
But if you get the good one, it's only the Roman one, Pecorino Romano.
Okay.
That's
thanks for that tip.
You got that.
But there were other things like I didn't know. It just never occurred to me that because I like blue cheese. That's why I knew I was a grown up.
Yeah.
When I started liking blue cheese, I said I'm a grown up now.
Yeah.
And that's when I discovered, this is now maybe 7 years ago, but I'm still a full up adult while this is happening. And I learned that most blue cheese are cow's milk.
Yeah.
But Roquefort is sheep's milk.
And it's crumblier. You get
no, not the Roquefort.
Roquefort.
No, the crumbles. That's the Danish
like
blue.
a Stilton and
no, the Danish blue. You get the crumbles. You go to Stilton. I mean, you go to Roquefort.
Yeah.
It's you bring it up to temperature, not quite full up room temperature, maybe 60 degrees from the refrigerator.
Yeah.
And oh man,
have you ever
I only just realized that. I mean, so that's little things. To me, it was all blue cheese.
Yeah.
So little things like that just it enriches one's life. And I'm late to the party on that in those two cases. But I'm just saying everything about the world, there's something to learn. Can I keep eating?
Yeah, of course. Keep going. You touched on something there that I found interesting, which is like there's so much science to food, right? And it's essential to food.
It's mostly chemistry. Yeah. A little bit of physics, mostly chemistry.
And yet, every dish is greater than the sum of its parts. We have an emotional connection with food that completely surpasses our ability to analyze it chemically or scientifically. Why?
I have a response to that,
Okay.
whether or not it's actually an answer. Okay?
All right, that's fine.
Okay, ready?
Yep.
We have 5 traditional senses. There's some other senses we have, but let's stick with the
Yeah.
the base 5 that we learned in school.
Mm.
So the sight, touch, taste, smell, and hearing. Okay. This matters, by the way, if you encounter an alien. Suppose the alien has senses you don't have.
Mm.
You wouldn't even know what they're doing with them.
Yeah.
Think about that. Think about if you never had one of these senses, it would be really hard to communicate what that sense is to someone who never had sight or never had hearing or never had a sense of touch. Okay.
And you, in turn, probably lack some sense that could perceive something that's perhaps in a different dimension potentially or something.
Well, we
don't know.
We know that from science. The great achievements of modern science, modern meaning the era of machines that help us make measurements, is that we can measure things that we have no senses for at all. And so the real question is, would an alien, if it had extra senses, would those senses be where our machines have gone? Will it be someplace we have yet to divine?
Right. You're talking about like being able to perceive ultraviolet light or high frequencies.
Oh, that's easy. That's not even the hard part.
Not even, okay.
Right. They're still perceiving light.
Yeah.
They're just perceiving a band of light outside of the spectrum that we see. That's not even the thing. I'm talking about being able to, sense the magnetic field. Okay, just see a magnetic field. How would you do that? We need a compass to know which way north is. But if that's a sensory organ of an alien, they would just, that's north. And we would all just know that.
Yeah.
You idiot. How could you not know this? Right?
Birds seem to be able to manage it somehow, we think. Right?
For example, you're right. Right. And so, but we can't. We don't have sensors for that. And that's not just an extension of these 5. The way seeing ultraviolet or infrared would. All right. So here's my point. These 5 senses are the entirety of how we receive information about the world. It's how our physiology knows anything that's going on around us. And look at how much money we spend serving these senses. Okay, we have a sense of sight. There are people who spend millions of dollars on a painting just to look at. They would be fine without the painting. They're not going to live shorter a life if they don't have the paint. But they spend millions of dollars. Let's keep going. Sense of hearing. Look at what we do. Look at the industry that feeds us music. It's one of the largest industries of the world.
Yeah, people dedicate their lives to making no money in the service of making great music.
That's this sector of the music industry.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the one I was in.
Oh, really? Okay. So sorry about that.
That's fine. Buy more records, I guess.
So look at what we spend. Now, you can satisfy your hearing without a singularly large expense. However, I do know people who are audiophiles who have rooms that they built with, they're spending millions of dollars on their equipment just to hear it.
Yeah.
And we keep going. Smells, taste. You could go home and eat beans and rice and be no less nourished than anything you'd get in any restaurant in town. But no, even if you don't have much money, you'll say, I don't want beans and rice, even though it'll cost you 40 cents. You go out, get a pizza. Well, that's $12 or $15. Or you can go to a fast food place, spend $20, $25. Or you go to another restaurant, it's paid $50, $100, $1,000. Oh, now how about the beverage? That's still, the food and beverage activate your olfactory glands as well as your taste buds. And so they're wines. People spend thousands of dollars just on wine.
You did that today. That's what you've brought along, isn't it?
I did bring along
You flatter me.
a little bottle of wine. So and your sense of touch, what people would give to have a massage, just to be touched. So I've concluded, well, I don't want to call it conclusion, it's an observation that our five senses are source, because we have them at all, and because they are the way that we receive information about the world, your body has to like them. You have to have the capacity to really enjoy these senses, because in a survival mode, it's the difference between life and death. Can you smell the predator? Can you see the predator? Can you hear the predator? Okay, all right. Is there something you're tasting that might be harmful to you? We have highly tuned sensors for these senses. Does that sentence make sense?
I know what you mean. Yeah.
We are physiologically capable of very high level stimulation in these five ways. And we built an entire society to feed those senses. Visually, acoustically, aromatically, sensorily. So then I wonder if there's an alien that has like a sixth, seventh, or eighth sense, and we see them doing something that's satisfying that sense.
Yeah.
We will look and say, what are you
It's a
doing?
weird thing to be doing. Trying to enjoy my spinach lasagna.
And you learn they have some sense you've never heard of,
Yeah.
and they've spent top dollar to satisfy that sense. So I think about this all the time with regard to aliens.
So what, if the act of having a last meal, your last meal on this tiny blue dot, what do you think it says about you as a person or your place in the universe? This particular dish, right?
That's a big question, but I'll tell you. For me, because my wife has perfected this, and when you make it, it makes a lot. Those leftovers, and you have it for lunch, so it's a smaller amount for lunch. It's also very wine friendly. And can I open a wine?
Let's open a wine. Let's fucking do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, actually, so I brought this bottle.
Yes. This is our mystery bottle, right?
Someone named Dan gifted it to me, and he had a little Dan
Thank you,
label
Dan.
on it. But I
Thanks
don't
for the
remember
wine,
which
Dan.
Dan this is. Forgive me. I know.
Neil doesn't know who you are, but we're going to drink your wine. You didn't have to say that.
You calling
Sorry,
me
Dan.
out. But I
Sorry,
want to be
Dan.
honest about it.
Okay. All right.
I think he made this wine
Yep.
in California,
Okay.
and I don't remember if it was Napa or Sonoma.
Yeah.
And so I just thought, I don't remember what's in it.
Yep.
And if it's my last meal,
Yes.
I got to do right by Dan.
Wow, Dan, that's actually an amazing compliment. I thought he was dissing you, but
No.
but he's brought your wine
Yes.
at the end of the world.
No,
And
just
for
the
some
end
reason he's sitting with me.
No, if it's the end of the world, that's a different food.
Okay.
The end of my life is different.
Okay, right. Fine.
Okay, I think about the end of the world.
What's your end of the world food?
I would,
Love that bottle opener. It's great.
yeah, it's a pocket-sized. So, let me give this a taste.
Yeah.
I'll be the taster for you. The color looks good.
It does. It looks
I smell it from here. That's a
lighter
good
than I
sign.
would have expected.
Mm. That's a worthy
Yeah.
moment here.
Okay.
May I share
That's
with
good.
you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would love it.
Give a splash.
Thanks.
There you
It's
go.
plenty.
So, here's why.
Here's what?
Why? Here's
yes.
here's the relationship between this dish and my fate, which ends tomorrow. So, first, it's made by my wife,
Wow.
who I love dearly, and so that's an important sort of emotional connection. And it also, because you make this in larger quantities, it's a kind of a comfort food because you can have it multiple times a day across the week, and you can consume it without much ritual. It's just reheated in the microwave. There it is. You're good to go. It doesn't require much setup once it's made. 3, the Moosewood Cookbook recipe does not use meat. It is a vegetarian variant on the traditional lasagna that has ground beef or ground other meats in it. This has some spinach in it, but that's not what's important to me. What's important to me is that it doesn't have a dead animal in it. Now, I live my life as an omnivore, so I'm not trying to claim that I'm high and mighty in this moment. I will say, if I'm going to die tomorrow, there's no reason why I need to take another animal with me. So, in my last meal, if I'm going to kill something that was once alive, I'm going to let it be plants and not animals. So that was just a small philosophical point that I considered in choosing this dish, added to the fact that it's a bit of a comfort food, it's satisfying, and it's wine friendly. So all those combined, and so no animal was harmed in the making of this dish.
Except for me. I have a couple of follow-up questions
Sure,
for the last
please.
meal, which is who, if you could choose the company of your last meal, who would you share it with?
I think a lot about historical. This is anybody in the world,
Anybody.
at any time.
At any time.
Just bring them
Yeah.
in the machine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's interesting. I don't tell people that, and only some people think to bring that up or ask the question. Very few, actually.
Okay. So I think about that a lot, and I haven't settled.
Okay.
I'll tell you why. Because my man in history is Isaac Newton. And I said, let me bring Isaac Newton here, and I'll just be chilling with Isaac Newton. Then I realized he should probably be bathed first.
You're like, I brought a bottle of wine and he brought an apple. It's just fucking...
No, 17th century England, I don't think people were particularly...
I mean, I'm pretty sure 19th century England. But anyway, yeah. Like, I was in London a couple of weeks ago. Still, they haven't figured it out.
So there he is. And we just have a conversation.
Yeah.
And then it occurred to me, his first question of me might be, oh, hello, Neil deGrasse Tyson. Pleased to meet you. Then he'll say to me, who owns you?
I wasn't ready for that.
Right? I mean, this is.
Would he?
I don't know. There's like total slavery going on.
Sure. But I mean,
I don't think it was outlawed yet in the UK. That was like in the 19th century, early 19th century. And so he might just ask that.
Yeah.
How many dark-skinned people is he going to dine with? Just ask yourself that.
Yeah, good
Right?
point. Yeah.
So,
And you'd have to say, my wife. Who owns you, Isaac?
well, he never married, actually, and he didn't have much of a social life as far as anyone
Well,
could.
not if he's asking people like that. That's bang out of order, if you ask me.
So I imagined he would ask me that question. I have to get through that. Fine. And then, because he's of his era, you can't, use presentism to pass judgment on it. So presentism, new word in the last couple of years. You take today's sensibilities and pass judgment on people of a different era.
Oh man, that happens all the time.
People do it all the time, as though if you were in that era, you would have been any different from anybody else in that
exactly.
era.
They do it reflexively, such like, here's how I would have behaved during Nazi.
Right. It's like, no, you wouldn't.
You don't. Well, nobody knows how they would have reacted, which I find weird.
So then, I don't know, he'll look out the window and he'll see, oh, what's that? And I'll say, oh, that's a horse-drawn carriage without the horse. And he'll say, well, how does that move? I say, oh, it runs on an engine. Well, what's an engine? Well, the engine converts energy from one form to another. And he'll say, well, what do you mean by energy? And I say, oh, well, there's energy.
Imagine being asked by Newton.
No, what I'm saying
yeah.
is all of this was discovered after his work. Machines, energy, chemical energy, chemistry. Okay, he was a little bit of an alchemist himself, but the full-blown hammer of what we do with chemistry today.
Yeah.
And so where do you get the energy? Oh, we dig it out of the ground. Well, what's it doing in the ground? Oh, prehistoric plants and animals. Okay, and just the concept of prehistory was not fully understood at the time. And so it was still widely said, yeah, Adam and Eve, that's, of course, you'll need to go earlier than that. And then I realized I'd have to spend the entire dinner explaining the most trivial things in our life to one of the smartest people there ever was.
Yeah, but you'd love that.
No.
You would. That's your perfect afternoon.
And then I'd pull out a smartphone, and he would and press a button.
You'd be burned to the
press
stake.
a button, and Beethoven's Ninth Symphony plays out of it, and then I think his mind would just explode. But I wouldn't. I don't think the conversation would be as fruitful as a more naive expectation of how that would have gone.
Yeah.
If I really think it through, it's an impossible conversation. So instead, I want to bring people forth who live by some principle. Then we can speak of principles rather than the advance of technology.
Give me an example of
Joan of Arc.
Oh.
Sit her right there.
Yeah.
She, to have the courage of conviction that she had against the forces that stood up against her in France. And, I read the court transcripts, or some of them, and a big part of why they wanted to get rid of her, well, they were building a case against her because they didn't want her interfering with the politics of the day. England had its presence in France, and I'm reminded why England and France historically were always at each other's necks. And so in there, as the Catholic Church builds its case against her, they cite a passage in, I think, is it Leviticus? Where it says, a man shall not don the clothes of a woman, nor the woman the clothes of a man, lest it be an abomination unto the Lord thy God. And there she was in pants, leading soldiers into battle, astride a horse. And so part of the case against her was for cross-dressing. And I'm thinking, they're ready to burn her at the stake, and she has the courage of her religious convictions against what is otherwise a religious tribunal to try to convict her. And I thought, I want to feel some of that courage. I want to hear what that courage sounds like over a dinner.
Yes. And historically, she was quite small, wasn't she? So she wouldn't eat much.
I think everybody was small back then. We have better
I bet
nutrition today.
she'd drink us under the table. And this would be nothing to her. Is there a person around today that you
so that's
think
one. Let me just think one other.
has that kind of bravery that you admire? That I'm not saying that you would have them at your last meal, but is there a Joan of Arc of today that you think has a similar type of courage?
Let me answer that more broadly, in a kind of a cop-out answer, but it's a response.
Yeah.
There are people who say, I stand with this cause, or you don't stand for anything unless it costs you something.
Costs you something. That's exactly right. Yeah.
Otherwly, you're just agreeing.
Yeah.
We need to distinguish those two cases.
And in some cases, you're not even properly agreeing.
Exactly.
So frustrating. Yeah.
You look at Martin Luther King, his last speech had a line, I've been to the mountaintop. No, and I've seen the other side, okay? We all might not get there together, but I've seen the promised land, okay? And then he says, sorry, I've seen the promised land. We've been to the mountaintop, seen the promised land. I might not get there with you. It was the night before he was shot. And he had gotten death threats, but he kept going. So where would the world be without people with courage? And courage isn't only or ever how big is your gun. I have courage. I'm going to go in and blow the... No, it's, can you stand for something that is so powerful and so progressive in its view that people can't even know how to embrace it yet? They have to sort of adjust to it and then realize later on that that's how things should have been all along. These are visionary leaders, moral leaders. And so, yeah. So I would try to find people throughout history that would give me perspective on these extremes of what it is to be human. What is taken? I might also bring Picasso. Just tell me what's going on in your head. Why are you putting my two eyeballs on? What's up with that? Or if not Picasso, no, I don't want Picasso. Yeah. No, I want Van Gogh.
You want Van Gogh?
Right, because he had emotional challenges and committed suicide. And my single...
Find those kinds of people interesting?
Well, no, not for that reason. My single favorite painting he painted.
Yeah, which was Starry Night?
Duh.
Yeah, okay. Well, I don't want to be presumptuous. So
The Starry Night.
It felt a bit on the nose, but yeah.
Don't you want to meet the person who painted your favorite painting? It just so happened he had the rest of this.
No, because I think mine's Renoir. I don't think I'd want to meet him.
Really?
No, yeah.
Do you want to instead meet the people who were in the paintings?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. I like that. Yeah.
So, I want to know what he was feeling when he painted the Starry Night, because that's clearly not what the sky actually looked like. The sky has never looked like that.
Yeah, it's an interpretation.
It's an interpretation. Yeah. And I value the lens through which people see the world, because it'll be different from mine. And when it's that of an artist, there's an extra layer of influence and feeling and emotion that flows through that lens. And I just want a little bit of that lens. So, yeah. So Joan of Arc and Vincent van Gogh.
I had a thought just a second ago about the wine that we're drinking. And there was an idea I was trying to tease out in my head the other day. I was reading about Zinfandel, the grape. And I think it was just reading a rough description of it. And it was saying that, up until pretty recently it was unknown or debated its origins. But then they did some DNA testing and they found that it was genetically identical to a Croatian grape by a name that I don't remember. And it reminded me of, when you have those, or you hear about people who might have been bigoted or racist, and then they get a 23andMe, and then they find out that they're 20% Jewish or whatever they hated, or what. Yeah. And I always thought that was interesting. Do you think that science and food, in a way, have the ability to sort of mend humanity or draw us closer together if we were to look at it through that lens? That we're more connected than we think.
Yes.
So I'll take that as a yes.
I'll give an example. And I devoted many pages on that subject in my Cosmic Perspectives book. So, we have the urge to categorize people, to put them in bins. Okay? You are this, you are that. Then we have words as well. And people come up to you and say, are you this, or are you or that? And I always ask, well, why do you ask? And in almost every case, they're not even self-aware of the fact that they want to know, because that way they can assert that they know more information about you than you have yet to give them.
Okay. Yep.
Okay?
Right.
Are you communist? I want to know. If you say yes, then I'm going to come at you with this package of beliefs and layer it onto you without actually having a conversation with you. Okay? Are you Republican? Are you Democrat? Are you this? Are you that? And, well, who's defining this? You realize the Democrats 60 years ago, they're the ones with the water hoses on the protesters. Okay? Republicans, Abraham Lincoln was the first Republican president. So if you're going to say, I am this word, well, those words change over time. But you are you. So why don't we just have a conversation where I learn who you are and what your thoughts are? And I've told people said, are you an atheist or this-ist? Or I'd say the only ist I am is a scientist. And when you look at the universe, you realize that almost everything exists on a continuum. You do your best to try to discuss that, okay? You can say, because we have there's stars that come in varieties, but it's a continuum nonetheless. But we have a labeling system. It's kind of cryptic, but it works for us. So the sun is a capital letter G, Arabic numeral 2, Roman numeral 5. Okay?
Yep.
G25. If I say that to another astrophysicist, we know exactly what kind of star you're talking about. Okay? Now, because there are 3 categories in there, it's a
each of those are like its own categories.
Each of those is a bit of a category within itself.
Got it, yeah.
Okay? So the letter G, there's multiple letters it could be. The 2, it can go from 1 to 9. The V, the Roman numeral 5, it goes from 1 to 7.
Got it.
Okay? So, with all of this, since you can't actually speak on a continuum, we nonetheless give ourselves many, many nuanced indicators of what it is we're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay?
And we want to do that with everything, don't we?
Okay. So, what we want to do is not think that way as humans. Are you gay or are you straight? Suppose there's something in between. Are you not even allowing that? Okay? Are you a boy or are you a girl? Okay, well, you can do that chromosomally, but in terms of how you express yourself, suppose I feel more girl today. In a country where it is in our founding documents, somewhere I read, the pursuit of happiness. And if my pursuit of happiness does not harm you, if you're going to create a law that prevents me from my pursuit of happiness, we're not living in America anymore. I don't know what country that would be. A country where you have dictatorial rules about how anyone behaves just unto themselves. So I'm just saying that in the universe where we have vocabulary that addresses a spectrum, and I come to Earth, civilization, and people resist that. And in so doing, it becomes easier to say, are you with me or are you against me? Well, maybe I'm neither, and I'm somewhere in the middle, and we can have a conversation about it. But no, the room isn't there for that kind of encounter. And this disturbs me. It leaves me worried for the future of civilization. The more we polarize, rather than think in terms of a continuum. And not to overstretch this analogy, but you've heard of computer bits, zeros and ones.
Sure.
That's pretty clear. You're either a 0 or a 1. However, quantum bits, qubits, can be a 0 or a 1 or a combination of 0 and 1. It can be anywhere in between. Well, that's interesting. And that confers certain computational powers on a computer. And we're on the dawn of quantum computing here.
Yeah.
So I think to myself, maybe we are all qubits. Whatever it is we are, we just find where we are between 2 polar extremes. And that fleshes out all that we are. And here's an example where it can be lethal. Okay? A crime is committed. The police come to you, say, describe your victim. There's 4 words you're going to use. Black, white, Hispanic, Asian. typically.
Mm.
Okay? That's odd because you go into a pharmacy and you go to the hair color aisle. There's 200 boxes of hair color, each with a different word associated with it.
Mm.
They each have their own word. You can go to one of the paint catalogs. There's hundreds of words used for paint nuances.
Describe the assailant. He was fire engine red, sir.
Exactly. Thank you. or ecru.
Yeah.
So my point is, why is it that the police are going to choose who they're going to arrest based on any one of 4 categories when we look through pages and pages of paint colors just to decide what color our wall is?
Yeah.
So
I mean, they probably don't give a shit, and they're just trying to save time.
correct.
You
So
know-
what the cops should do? They should all carry around, a Benjamin Moore paint book. And the crime is committed. Say, could you please find the skin color of the person who it was?
What if AI?
And then it's not about race or it's just you're being accurate.
But what if you could have AI that used the description of an individual to like a composite artist? Because I remember watching like old Netflix slideshows.
We're not that good. You're going
But
off
the AI might be.
No, you're going off your memory, and the AI can't be better than your memory.
Yeah, that's true. But then how's the composite artist? Because anytime I see a composite artist, they just look like a completely different person. Like, we got the guy. I'm like,
with
that
dark
was your
sunglasses
drawing?
and a hat.
I'm like, yeah, I know. Okay, well, here's another perspective that I think science could give on humanity, at least. We did an interview with, do you know who Kenneth Cockrell is? Taco, he's an astronaut. Lives down in Houston. Wonderful man. Just met him a couple of weeks ago. He's done 5 tours in space. And I said to him, what was it like being up as far as the ISS and like looking down at the Earth? You spent your entire life down there. And this is the first time.
ISS is International Space Station.
We'll put a little asterisk down the bottom. Yeah. And he said the funniest thing. He said, the first thought was my geography's really bad. And he's like, because when I looked, there were no little lines like dividing up.
Yeah.
But I thought it was kind of interesting because, the first time I went up in a helicopter, which wasn't that long ago, it really changed my perspective on the city that I live in. And I can't imagine what it would be like going into, the atmosphere and looking down on Earth. And I feel like all of those dividers between countries.
You said looking down on Earth, not looking down on the Earth.
Yeah.
Very good. Fist bump on that.
Yeah. No, looking down on Earth, and there's no dividing dotted lines. We really appear like we are just all one people, although we know we're not when we're down on Earth. I mean, what is the perspective that science offers in that moment that could make us feel more united?
That may be your most important question in our session together, because when we all grew up, there was the schoolroom globe on the back shelf, color-coded countries. And I thought at the time that was to help us learn geography. But in my cynical old age, I came to realize, no. That was so that you know who your enemies are and who your friends are. We were being inculcated with a geopolitical perspective from the very beginning. I don't even think it occurred to them just to put Earth there without countries, as an alien might see Earth coming upon it for the first time. So, there's your view from what is colloquially called space. So if this is the schoolroom globe, how high above it do you think this space station orbits?
Very close.
Very close.
I think it would take up your whole field of view, the whole Earth.
Yes, exactly. So there's Earth. It's 1 centimeter above the surface.
Yeah.
Okay. So yes, you're above Earth and you don't see national boundaries, but you don't see national boundaries from an airplane either.
Yeah.
Okay. You don't have to be, in quote, space to see that. All right. So that's what astronauts call the overview effect. But there's a higher effect than that. It's a higher point of view than that, a higher perspective than that. That's the cosmic perspective. That's when you're so far away from Earth. Earth is floating there out in front of you. Spaceship Earth, alone, adrift, with no hint that help will come from elsewhere to save us from ourselves. That's a line from Carl Sagan's Pale Blue Dot. Looking at Earth from even much farther away, where it just occupies a few pixels. But if you go to the moon, there's Earth. And you see it the way nature intended. If you're religious, you see it the way God intended you to see it, with oceans and land and clouds. And with that perspective, and you just realize, well, what's going on down there? People are killing one another because of what side of a line in the sand they're born on, or because of some shade of skin color, because of some god they worship that's different from some other god. And it makes you wonder whether our species has the wisdom to survive itself.
Do you think it does?
No. I'm trying to say yes. I'm trying to give me a yes out of this, please, please.
Way to put a negative spin on it, Neil. Fucking hell.
I don't know. We need to take all politicians of the world and ship them into space and have them look at Earth together.
Oh, I thought you meant like ship.
Oh no, no, bring it back. No, I'm not evil. Come on. What kind of person do you think I am?
That's extreme. Actually, there was a part of the last meal question that I didn't get to ask you. So you've taken with you Isaac Newton and Joan of Arc.
I sent Isaac Newton back.
Okay, you sent Isaac. You sending a lot of people away.
No. Joan of Arc and Vincent van Gogh.
Okay, Joan of Arc, Vincent van Gogh. Let's say I could tell you that you could have it anywhere in the universe, not subject to, you could breathe, forget about zero gravity, you could be anywhere. Is there anywhere that you've read about or that you know of that you would like to eat your last meal?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. I got this one.
Okay.
So, all evidence suggests, based on Apollo rocks that were brought back from the moon, as well as our understanding of the structure of Earth, that the moon did not form all by itself out there as a moon around a planet. It's because an object that size, we have one of the biggest moons in the solar system, and Earth is not one of the biggest planets. How did we end up with that? That's a little weird. Okay. If you're built out of the native ingredients of the solar nebula, this is the gas cloud that made everything that we know and love in the solar system. If you're made out of that gas cloud, you can have a prescribed fractions of different elements within you, because that's the base ingredients of the gas cloud. You can have a certain amount of oxygen and carbon and hydrogen and helium and iron. The moon has hardly any iron in it. It is way deficient. It's an iron deficient.
My mother would be so angry at it. Take your supplements.
It is very iron. And how's that possible? And its orbit is not in the plane of the solar system. Its orbit is not in the plane of Earth's equator. It's closer to the plane of the solar. So we concluded that a Mars-sized protoplanet, we've even named it, it's called Theia, Mars-sized protoplanet, sideswiped Earth, colliding, casting our crust and mantle into orbit around us. Now, what is the crust and mantle? Earth is already formed, and where did the heavy stuff go? To the middle. That's why we have an iron core. We have a huge iron core. Some iron veins continue to stick out that's why we have iron at all. But most of it is in the core. If you create a new object out of just crustal material, it's not going to have much iron at all. So it sideswipes, all the material goes out there, and it coalesces and forms the moon. I want a front row seat to that collision.
Oh, so you want to
4.5
go back
billion
in
years
time
ago.
to when Theia and Earth collided?
Yes. I want to see. I just want to sit back.
Is that like the late heavy bombardment? That's how far you want to go back?
Yeah, it might have been early
Some
bombardment.
people are like the Roman Empire.
Oh,
You're like,
no.
They're like, oh no, just a good 5 billion years ago will do.
I can read about the Roman Empire.
Yeah,
I
it's
want to
true, yeah.
see something not yet documented.
Where would you have to sit, do you think, for that to be
At a safe distance.
Yeah, safe distance, but also not too far away because, I mean, you couldn't
it'd be highly visible. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So I would say I want to be at the current moon distance
Yeah.
because the moon would have formed very close to Earth.
Yeah.
By the way, tides would have been 8,000 times higher. It would have been a riotous time. And then the moon coalesces and it's spiraled away as it still is spiraling away from Earth very slowly. And so I would be at a safe distance from any of the debris.
There would probably be a few asteroids flying around Earth or
Tons.
Theta.
But those
that
won't
were
be
big
nearly as
enough-
interesting as...
No, but they're close enough, right? That if you were sitting on that eating your last meal, you'd still get the collision right up close.
You want me to eat on an asteroid?
Yeah.
Why do I have to eat on anything? Let me just float there in space.
Okay, yeah, fine. Well, you're just sharing your last meal. That was the original question.
That's what I want to witness.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are there any... wait, can I have some more wine, actually?
Oh, of course.
Are there any habits that you regret from your younger years? That's fine.
I have pretty good control over what I do in life so that if I make a mistake, I own it. You own the mistake. You try not to repeat it. So, but in terms of habits, no, if it was a bad habit, I just got rid of it. Part of the challenge with habits is that they're hard to break, and so, but I'm not so susceptible to my habits or my emotions that it would have been sort of impossible to break a habit. So no. Yeah.
Is there a scientific discovery that you think is very close, like on the horizon of us finding out, that you don't think you're going to make in your lifetime that you regret not knowing?
Because I'll be dead tomorrow?
Well, you'll be...
All of them.
I'm not talking about but in your life, let's say that we will discover X within the next 100 years.
I want to know for sure if there's any form of life anywhere else in our own backyard.
Okay, solar system or Milky Way?
No, solar system. The backyard is the solar system.
Okay.
In the soils of Mars, below the frozen ice sheets of Europa.
That's where my money is.
Yeah. One of the moons of Jupiter. And if you find life there, you're going to have to call it European. You're going to, if it's Europa. I'm just saying.
Will it join the Union by default?
Life on Europa would be European.
Yeah.
And there are so NASA's mantra is to follow the water.
Yeah.
We know Mars has water. We think it's in the permafrost beneath the surface. Now, Mars has a hostile surface because it doesn't have it doesn't have we have ozone here to protect us from ultraviolet. Ultraviolet light would just come straight from the sun and hit the surface of Mars. And the energy of an ultraviolet light photon is greater than the binding energy of many biological molecules. So when the light comes in, it just breaks the molecule. That's a diabolical face you just made there.
Is it? Why?
It was scary.
No, I'm not trying to use it for anything.
You made it scary. You said, cool. Destroys life.
Get him, guys. No, that was fun. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so if there's life there today, it would be under the surface.
Yeah.
So I just want to know, because if we find life in our backyard, it's got to be everywhere.
Yeah, it's got to be everywhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's an experience in your life that was worth every cent?
That assumes I paid for it. There are experiences in my life that I can rank. I say there's a top 5, but I don't know that I can order them.
Just give me the first one that springs to mind.
Observing a total solar eclipse.
Last year?
Well, I've seen
Oh,
three or four in my life.
we were here last year. We saw
Stateside. Okay.
Yeah, we were in New York.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
But
we
we
went-
would have seen a partial eclipse
yeah,
from here in New York.
yeah. It was still pretty good though.
No.
Where were you for that one?
Okay, just to be clear.
Yeah.
If you ask someone, have you ever seen a total eclipse? And they say, I think I have. The answer is no. If you say, have you ever seen a total eclipse? Yeah. Oh my God. Then the answer is yes. Yeah.
But I got that excited even by a partial eclipse.
No, you don't understand. Do you
There's a lot of
realize
things I don't
that
understand.
if the moon covers 99% of the sun,
yeah.
which it didn't here from New York,
Mm.
99% of the sun, the little bit of the sun that's still sticking out is as bright as the light of 10,000 full moons. If you've not seen a total eclipse, you have not seen a total. I don't mean
That's fucking bananas.
Yes.
It's okay. So wait, a 99%, 1% is 10,000.
10,000
moons?
full moons. So you can't say it was almost that. There's a saying, I almost had an orgasm. Did you have an orgasm or did you not?
Yeah.
You know, it's not.
Somehow this is related to eclipses, but yeah.
So a total solar eclipse, and my first one was when I was 14, off the coast of Northwest Africa, and
As you do when you're
as
14.
one does.
Yeah, off the coast in Northwest. I think
that was
that's
one of
where I
two-
was when I was 14.
When I was two expeditions, one was to see that eclipse in Africa, and the other one was up to Stonehenge. So I had,
it was that time.
yeah, right
Oh, that's a special trip.
around that time. Yeah, I was already in with 2 feet, neck deep in the universe from a very early age. And so it was that. Another experience, this is weird. It's just, I'll never forget it. My first time at Belmont racetrack.
I don't know what that is.
It's a racetrack out on Queens or Long Island.
Oh, okay.
It's right
Yeah.
out here. It's one of the legs of
Horses or-
the Triple Crown.
Oh, okay.
There's a Kentucky Derby
Right.
in Kentucky, Preakness in Maryland,
Yeah.
and then there's the what did I just call it?
Belmont.
Belmont. Thank you.
Yeah.
So my sister was into horses, and we went there. We went to the day of the races where they're running the Belmont Stakes. Okay. And I'm there, and I'm an astrophysicist. So there are things in the world that I just don't have an intersection with. This was one of them. I'm there, and there's like 10 races in the day or something, 15 races. Belmont is one of the larger of the tracks.
Right.
It's like miles around, 2.5 miles around, something like that. One of the races, they start on the other side of the track. But before they start, there's a huge scoreboard in the middle of the track. I don't know what to call it. And it is the betting odds of every horse in that race changing in real time as people bet on these horses throughout the state, and I think at the time even in Las Vegas. And it was like, and so the horses, no one cares when the horses are back there, because who cares?
Yeah.
When they come around the backstretch, thousands of people emerge from their cocktail tables to then cheer on their horses as they went by. And I'm thinking, I'm just looking through my telescope in the universe, and all this is going on every day. What? And there's some forms of math, the language of the universe, to calculate how much you're going to win and lose.
And it's changing in real time,
It's
which
changing
is so
in real time
stressful.
as it's being bet. And I was kind of upset. I felt like math had been violated by this activity. I just felt like, really? This is how we're using math in real time? But the park was beautiful. Just to see something on that scale. I'd never seen a track that size. You usually see a 1/4 mile track, 400-meter track. This is 2.5 miles. of a track. Anyhow, that was a singular sight in my life. I know that's weird.
No,
but
not weird.
It's
being a mathematician of sorts. What do you think about risk in life and I guess what I would say, our tolerance to risk? Do you think we should risk more as people?
so. Not to beat a dead horse, but in my Cosmic Perspectives on Civilization book, there's an entire chapter called Risk and Reward. We are members of a species where some of us thrive on taking high risks. And that's probably enough. We don't need everybody taking risks, just some of us. And not all of them come back. And they know these risks in advance. So think about it. Where does it come from? Why is it that some people are timid and other people can take risks? You need a combination of both, I think, for the species. So consider, here we are in the Serengeti, and we ask ourselves, is there a lion in the grass? And I'm going to say, I'm not sticking around to find out. And you say, I wonder if there's a lion there. I'm going to investigate. Then you investigate it. It is a lion. It eats you, and you are summarily removed from the gene pool. So curiosity and exploration is not always rewarded in our species. However, if you say, I wonder if I can eat that fruit, you say, no, I'm not going to try that. And then I take a bite of it, and then I'm nourished by it, and I'm healthier, and you get sick and die. So,
well, you can feed your family. And
exactly.
All
of the above. So these risks can kill you, but they can also propel you.
Yeah.
And I think the species needs a combination of both. And provided the fruits of the risk takers are shared, literal and figurative fruits, then I think we're okay as a species. Not everyone can be an astronaut, strapping their body to a 1,000,000 pounds of thrust, going into orbit, going to another planet. Not everyone can do that, but some do. And we justifiably make heroes of them.
I think so.
And this whole thing, will robots replace exploration of space? Sure. However, nobody's ever given a ticker tape parade to a robot.
That's true. However, I did get in a Waymo when I was in Texas, and that thing needs an award. Love them.
Oh, yeah, I've seen them in L.A.
Yeah.
I've seen them in L.A.
I love them.
That's the future.
This is, so this place, Baie-Mouton, Chateau Baie-Mouton, is actually part of Chateau Le Roc, as far as I know.
Interesting. No, I haven't seen the chateau.
Neither had I, and I looked it up.
There are a lot of little places in Saint-Emilion. It's a very diverse.
We're going there this year.
Really?
In June.
Nice.
So I'm getting my dad, who's a really big wine snob, and and my auntie, his sister, together in Bordeaux.
You taste it first?
Oh no, go right ahead.
You you brought it. Taste it. See if it.
I mean, it's going
to work for you.
Oh, it's going to work for me. It doesn't matter. I'm not that picky. It's not bad.
All right.
Yeah. It's all it's quite fruity. Bunch of Merlot in it, which I like for the Saint-Emilions better than the left bank stuff. Yeah. Actually, you know what I really love? I'm a cheap date, right? I like my favorite grapes in France are Muscadet. Have you ever had that?
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Love it. They call it the poor man's Chablis. And I can get, when I'm in France, I can get it for like €5 in the supermarket, and it's fucking brilliant. But yeah, I'm a cheap date. But I was once in Dijon. Do you know that place?
Yes.
And that's like the area that they have, they grow Pinot Noir, which I quite like. And I went to this restaurant, and they said, the house wine is €1 a glass. And I'm like, okay. I walk in there, and the guy's got this big barrel, like a huge barrel, and he's just pouring it out. I'm like, okay, it's €1. That's my risk. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not risking much. I had it, and it was brilliant. And I'm like, what is this? And he's like, I know. He's like, it's just my friend. He has a vineyard down the road and he just takes it in.
That's wine as culture,
Yeah.
not wine as a commodity.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Untariffed wine. That's okay. I'm kind of interested in stories that people have of coming close to or being adjacent mortality or death. I know that you were in this city for 9/11, which, I mean, I don't know what that would have been like. But do you want to talk about it a bit?
Sure. I might have an unorthodox outlook on death and mortality. For me, the knowledge that I will die one day is what brings focus to my energies every day that I'm alive. And if you ask yourself, what happens if you live forever? Well, if the knowledge you're going to die brings focus, then the knowledge you're not going to die might completely defocus your entire life. Why do today what you can do tomorrow if you're going to live forever? And so it's not obvious to me that I want to live forever. That would completely change my life's priorities in a way that I, at the moment, don't value. And you know what Einstein said when they could have operated on him, had extended his life a little longer? He had some condition, I don't remember which. He said, "We can operate on you, Albert. What would you like?" He said, "My work is done." So I don't fear death. As I alluded to earlier, I fear a life where I could have accomplished more than I did. It meant I squandered some of the time. I live then and now 4 blocks from ground zero. Those would be 4 straight blocks. To get there, you have to do some zigzagging. So it's maybe 6 blocks by foot. But the vector is a 4-block distance. And I was home when all this happened that morning. And it's an interesting thing about statistics, people's ability to do any statistics at all. When the North Tower was on fire, people were all just standing out there looking at it, saying, "Oh, this is a tragedy. Oh my gosh, what is this? It's a tragedy." Feels sad for the people. And then the second tower was hit. In that instant, everyone did the calculation that this has to be on purpose. You don't have 2 random plane crashes into the Twin Towers within 40 minutes.
Yeah, that's not an accident.
It's not an accident.
Yeah.
And so instantly everyone said, "Oh my gosh, it's a terrorist attack." And I'm there. I had my camcorder at the time. There were no smartphones yet. And so what was particularly terrifying, I don't know if that's the right word, disturbing is the better word, was, well, I'm watching, both buildings are on fire now, and there's like shards of metal falling down and bits and pieces of office furniture. And then you'd see something falling differently from other things. I said, "What is that?" Oh my gosh, that's a human body. Human bodies fall differently from other things that occupy office spaces. By the way, the Twin Towers, for those who had never visited New York, are an acre of office space per floor times 107 floors times 2 buildings. And if you're at the top of the building, the sun sets 2 minutes later for you than it does for someone at the bottom. Which, by the way, is evidence that Earth is round. in case you needed more evidence of this.
I don't, but some of our viewers may.
So I think the starkness of that, it's one thing to know that people died in an airplane that you don't even see anymore and they're immolated, whatever, but to watch a body fall, who in the instant it's falling, while it's falling, it's surely alive. And seconds later, it's going to be 100% dead. And I think the imminence of death in situations such as that makes it that much more disturbing. And so everyone, we're all there. People, you hear the crowds reacting upon realizing what we're witnessing. And I wrote a letter the next morning reflecting on that, on my experiences that day. I emailed it to my coworkers and to family. At the time, there were no blogs or any, there was no social media. So I don't know, should I be surprised? It was early in this exercise where my email had been sent to everybody's email lists. So I was getting responses from people all around the world in response to this letter that I wrote. And it was just called The Horror, sort of Joseph Campbell adjacent sentiment there. I was changed after that in two ways. First, I was a bit shell-shocked in the following way. And by the way, I had it mild compared to other people, so I'm not here to seek sympathy or even empathy. I'm just saying as a matter of fact. That entire morning, all I heard were sirens. From the first impact through the collapse of the second building. Sirens. So the sirens became the acoustic wallpaper of the morning. That was the native sound of that day, were sirens. And then when the buildings collapsed, there was silence. And that was an eerie silence, especially when the dust cloud billowed forth. It consumed my window. We live in an old building with sash windows. They're not sealed. And so the dust came through. Visibility was about a centimeter out the window. That's how dark the dust was and how thick it was. Something that no one described, and I don't know because they were maybe distracted by other elements of that morning. There was countless millions of sheets of office paper flowing with the billowing dust. And so the paper enabled you to see the path of the air as it billowed, because the paper would take the shape of the flow of air. And that's back, before we really stored much on a computer. People had file cabinets. And just imagine casting thousands of file cabinets into the air in this explosion. So, this was an assault, of course, not only on America, on New York City. It was an assault on my backyard. And I was emotionally shaken in the following way. As a geek kid, my emotions were things I had tamed. I was never one to slam the door or clamp the, no, it's an emotion, who cares? What I care about is objective realities. Didn't mean I didn't have emotions. It meant the emotions never consumed me.
Mm.
I could go to a Broadway musical, a tender moment, and I'll tear up. Here's what happened. After that day, after that morning, whatever was the membrane, the mind membrane that separated my emotions from my rational thought, it no longer existed. It somehow dissolved away. And there was cross contact between my emotions and my rational brain. So that for a year after that, I wouldn't just see and experience the world around me. I would feel it. as never before.
In what way?
Emotions. I'd see people, I would read their face, and I said, why is that person so sad? I want to go over and find out. I want to help them. They're sad. Oh, that person's happy. I wonder what joke they're laughing. It was as though some switch got turned on, and every other human being was this sack of emotions that I was experiencing along with them. Someone later said, I became an empath. I guess that's the noun of empathetic. I became an empath. And I'm almost sad to say that my writing greatly improved.
Why does that make you sad to say?
Because it took a tragedy to improve my writing. And I wasn't looking for that. That's a consequence of it. It was a tragedy. My writing became much richer with what I was describing and how I would get you to feel when I was writing the sentence. I wasn't just composing a wiki page, not that wiki existed back then, but you know what I mean. It's not just informational. I want to reach into your soul and fold that into what I'm communicating on the page. And then I realized, if you look at the Nobel Prizes for literature, many of them, if not most, have gone to people who've experienced some kind of stress or trauma in their lives.
I was about to say, yeah. And also, isn't there in a way that, like, I mean, if there's anything that you can draw positively out of such a horrible event, that's not unfortunate.
A silver lining to the, yeah. But here's what else was true. For about a year, anytime I heard a siren, I would kind of wince a little.
I bet.
Because it took me right back to that moment. That's the shell-shocked bit of this. It would take about a year and a half for that, because sirens happen all the time in New York.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just that it was constant. That's what was different, and that imprinted me.
Yeah.
Also, when leaving, because they evacuated Lower Manhattan, I collected my kids. I had a 9-month-old son and my daughter, who at the time, it was her Tuesday. It was her second day of school ever. She was like in kindergarten, okay? And her school is like right near ground zero. So that was a whole thing. How do you get kids and contact parents and everything? Point is, the subways were not running. And we were going to go north into Westchester, where my parents lived at the time. And so I'm pushing the stroller with my son, and I'm walking to far enough north to get the train to get me into Westchester, which is Metro North for locals. And that's a multi-mile walk from where I am. And a lot of that walk was along Park Avenue, and I'm carrying my daughter. She's 5, so how much does she weigh? But I'm carrying her for miles. And for about a year after that, every time I crossed Park Avenue, my muscles tinged, remembering that I was carrying her. So it's like a muscle memory of that trauma. I'm certainly strong enough to do it, so that wasn't the issue. I felt it, and it's associated with that morning. And so, once again, like I said, I could still function. I was not, wrapped in a bag in the corner. And that's more than I can say for many people. We had neighbors who had left the city.
Yeah.
They moved out, never saw them again. But we stayed. So 3,000 people died that morning. And
any one of your family could have been one of them.
that's true. And it's people in all walks of life, professions, ages, nationalities, religions. But I have my slightly unorthodox view on this is, I think philosophers call it, I'm a utilitarian. utilitarian, I think is what I would be called in this context. Utilitarian just kind of looks at the numbers. Less emotion, just what are the numbers? And I saw our reaction as a nation to those attacks, amassing our forces and our military and the $1 trillion of military budget that would be brought to bear on this geopolitical incident. And I knew that every day, 100 people die in car accidents in the United States. About 100, plus or minus. So that a month later, by October 11th, as many people died on the highways and in the streets of New York from car accidents as had died in the 3 plane crashes of those terrorist attacks. And I looked at that and I said, do we really care about saving lives? It's hard to have pre-saved the lives of the people in those planes because we didn't even picture that as a terrorist motive. But we've got automobiles. We can make them safer, roads safer, conditions, whatever. And that 3,000 people, because 100 people a day times 30 days is 3,000, every month is another 3,000 people. So we lose 35 to 40,000 people a year. That's in a year, slightly less than the total number of servicemen who died in Vietnam. So as a utilitarian, I think I'm using that word correctly.
It's extremely fucking utilitarian.
Yes. And it's almost callous.
Yeah, I'm never going to give you a trolley problem. I'll put it
not the trolley problem. You will know in advance where we're going to land on the trolley problem. So I had those thoughts and I didn't know who to bring them to because when people are angry and you've established an enemy, you'll just do it. I can tell you this, that New York City was a friendlier city after September 11th. People were helping each other. People, different creeds, different colors, different socioeconomic classes. And I think people felt their mortality. When mortality is staring you in the face, you don't have time for hate. I don't think. I think you want to love more than you want to hate.
I think you're right about that. There's also like a sense of unity that I think you would have experienced in this city like you'd never probably seen before that. Correct. For a very long time.
We were all, that's kind of in a way that's a victim mentality because all victims feel a shared
interesting
camaraderie. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
That's part of the binding energy of Jews during Passover, for example. You know, the Egyptians are the enemy and we are the oppressed and we're all together. Christians, you know, you hear the stories of Christians being fed to the lions and the persecution of Jesus.
Do you think that's unhealthy? Or do you think it's
I don't think it's unhealthy if you create rituals around it and you commemorate the tragedies.
Interesting.
If you do it to sustain hatred, then there's no good in that at all.
Yeah, that's a pretty good distinction, I think.
Right, I think, and that's a distinctionable thing.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. You can draw a definite line in the sand between what is festering hate or what is festering
there's the word.
Unity.
Yes.
Yeah. There's also a thing like you talking about the people that died in car accidents made me think that, you know, as humans, we seem to have this huge problem with culpability. And so, you know, a passenger on one of the flights on 9/11 is deemed 100% innocent, you know, and they are, I get it. But a person that was driving too fast down the highway, you know, there's a sense of blame that's attached to that. And I think we ascribe different
Well, that assumes only the person who was driving fast died.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they're all the people they take with them.
Of course. Yeah. And then there are different levels of culpability within that. But I think people are able to, when they're viewing a statistic, you know, be able to say, oh, well, you know, people that die in car accidents should stop drinking or drive slower or like, you know, they, at the very least, they got on the road. They take a bit of risk. And also, like, there's a huge difference, I think, culturally between Australians and Americans with the amount of risk that we're exposed to and culpability as well. Because I think it's a lot more sort of, like, America seems to be a lot more pro-personal responsibility, at least psychologically. And so I think that there's probably a different way that most people view the utilitarian aspect of what you were saying.
Yeah, and like I said, it's just my own thoughts. I didn't compare them with others, and I don't know how a full-up trolley analysis would land on 9/11.
Yeah, we're trying to get trolleyed, not do trolley problems.
Yeah. So I just don't want anyone to die who doesn't have to. And if it's an avoidable death. Oh, and by the way, people came up to me afterwards when they said, oh, the Muslim extremists were responsible. And I think I'm highly resistant to blaming an entire community of people just because they have some association that you have identified as a link. And some of that could be from my father, who was active in the civil rights movement in the 1960s. And he'd come home, we'd see the little black and white TV, and you'd see the dogs that were sent onto the protesters in Alabama, and the water hoses, and children getting spat upon. And you can go one of two ways. You can turn the other cheek, or you can hold up your fist and try to find a weapon. Okay, and he was always, those people don't know any better. They were raised that way.
Couldn't that be said of everyone?
I think the answer is yes. And so growing up in an environment where the triggers were so manifest, yet you don't pull the trigger. You find a different path to that solution. And he was one who always said, in life, it's not good enough just to be right. You also have to be effective. You can say, I'm right, and then beat people on the head, but what did you accomplish? Now they want to beat you on the head. It's not really a turn your other cheek. It's you slap me on the cheek, and now I still approach you, and I say, let's talk about that. I'm not giving you my other cheek.
I knew at some point you were going to hit me today.
And Martin Luther King famously said, you can only be ridden if your back is bent. So no, you don't bend your back, but you engage and try to see what's going on there and strategize arguments and discussions. And yeah, it's harder, and it's not as blunt as let me kill them all until they succumb to my demands, as most of the history of warfare has unfolded.
Yeah. Just to sort of close the loop on the whole last meal theme, if you were to leave your loved ones with one lasting message when you check out, what would it be?
So I have a cop-out answer to that.
You seem to have a lot of cop-out answers. But you keep announcing them.
No,
you should just fucking answer it. Don't even like...
It relates to something my mother always told us, okay? Never wait for someone to be on their deathbed to tell them what you want to say.
Excellent advice.
And so then you have no regrets. Someone dies when you're not looking, or you're
unexpected.
Away. No, I told them everything. I told them I loved them. I told them how I felt. I told them what my thoughts were. So there is no thought I'm saving for my last comment that I would share with my loved ones that I haven't already expressed to them in life. And so, no, there's no saved words.
And you make an effort to do that all the time.
Yes. And if not daily, certainly weekly. And then they know how you feel. They know how you think. And there's no sort of deathbed promises, deathbed regrets, deathbed confessions. It's all there.
Well, if I die before you hear from me again, I want you to know that it's been a pleasure chatting with you. Cheers. Let's do it.
You got it.
Neil treats curiosity the way most people treat comfort, as a necessity. He views the universe with a scale that forces you to recalibrate your own significance, not to feel small, but to feel connected. His perspective reminded me that a meaningful life doesn't come from being the center of everything, but from understanding how gracefully we fit in within something far bigger. And that's all from me.